So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Pavel, who always blows my mind with his knowledge. So thank you, Pavel. I'll leave it to you.
Thanks, Sue, for introduction. Let me share the screen. Please confirm that you see.
Yes, I've got it. I
Superb.
can see.
Okay, so a very quick introduction. Who is the speaker? My name is Pavel. Adam is surname, so Pavel is the first name. LinkedIn. I called myself Power Platform Thinker, mainly focused on Power BI. I fall in love in 2018 to Power BI, and still it's crashed. I focus on backend Power Query, DAX, custom logic, custom visuals, SVG, Deneb. Definitely don't ask me about the front end because I have troubles to name colors, much less to identify what is elegance or nicer or less nicer. But I suppose others with front end features, and they can beautify it according to aesthetic standards that are beyond my resolution limit. I'm also a Power BI teacher and developer. Okay, from kind of personal point of view, I'm former scientist, friend of reading. Some friends called me book eater or bookworm. Music player, indoor climber, and I'm proud absentee of any Microsoft certificate.
Oh, Pavel.
Okay, that was everything about me, and now let's talk about Deneb. Please keep in mind that this session is going to be more like closer to workshop or like hands-on session, much less talking. There can be some negative effects because of that, and please keep in mind that there is not enough time to cover Deneb, so I would just use tidbits of information here and there and omit majority of the stuff. So first, let's synchronize the frequency about the communication, what the Deneb is. Deneb is custom visual. It's a high-level grammar language of visualization, grammar language. It's a wonders tool and wonders product of Daniel Smash-Petty, who is author of Deneb. And I'm still in awe that something like that, like Deneb, exists. Using Deneb, you can deliver visualizations and features that are unthinkable in Power BI, like default visuals, literally. Okay, so big expectations. Deneb pros. In Deneb, you have literally pixel precise full control of everything in the visualization. Would you like to change transparency of the line? Would you like to add a grid? The grid should be dotted or full line, thick, thin, color this or that. You have everything there. Another stuff is interactivity. I'm gonna to show a little into that, but you can make Deneb interactive. User can insert some parameters, adjust parameters, and these parameters interact with the Deneb and the visualization, recalculate things, etc. So some of these features can be represented in default Power BI with help of support tables and DAX knowledge, etc. But some of them not, many of them not. That's with the Deneb controls. There are slicers, radio buttons. It supports native pan and zoom gesture. So no more these ugly balls below and along the axis of visuals to somewhere. Not at all. You are using the mouse wheel, double click. You can even control the Alt key pressed together with a mouse click or control key. And you can even control the keyboard inputs. And there is, for example, a visualization of Patsman delivered in Deneb. So you can play Patsman as an old computer game from 1980s in Deneb as a visual. Yes, a Patsman.
Ah.
Another stuff that is super useful, especially in big corporate, is that Deneb is effectively kind of package, and how you define, how to specify what should be done with the data. Within this one package, you can have line chart, you can have columns, you can have geo mapping, but effectively it's still the same visual. So if there's a problem in corporate, like accept custom visual, if you push acceptance of Deneb, you effectively covered like tens of custom visuals in one package. So these are, from my point of view, the most important pros points. There are also some cons, as always. First, learning curve. Deneb is specified by custom language. Effectively, it's a programming language. It's either Vega-Lite or Vega. Both of them are not DAX, not Power Query. It's not Python. It's not SQL. You need to absorb. So, learning curve. However, AI helps enormously, and relatively new updates in Deneb, like code whisperers, etc., helps also a lot. What is a big disadvantage so far? Deneb is unable to work correctly with fields parameters. I'm gonna to comment that topic and that problem on next slides slightly. I presented there some knowledge links, Vega-Lite documentation, Vega documentation, so both languages are covered there. There is a page, let's go there, with visualization examples. Come on, where is the link? I don't see the link. Oh, Microsoft.
Quick
okay,
question.
doesn't matter. Yeah,
quick question. So Vega-Lite versus Vega, I'm presuming Vega-Lite is a simpler version of it. Do you have to, can you just start with Vega-Lite or?
Okay, you are completely right. Vega-Lite is kind of simplified version of Vega.
Yeah.
They are not so different. It's like close to German and Swiss German. They are like very similar, but not the same. I know and orient a lot Vega-Lite. Vega, I'm able to read and change, but not write, not yet. However, the difference between Vega-Lite and Vega-Lite, it's more compressed. You don't have to write so much code there somewhere. However, you are limited in control. For example, in full Vega, you have complete control what is happening on a mouse. You can use multiple sets of data and combine them on fly during the calculation. In Vega-Lite, you have either the Power BI dataset or some hard-coded dataset, but they can be just combined these two together, but you can combine three.
Right. Okay. So it's simpler, but not as as many features.
If I can return back to the history, I would kick my button and focus on Vega instead of Vega-Lite. But well, that happens already, and so far, majority of the features are required are completely covered by Vega-Lite. Some of them not. Now I would recommend to go to Vega.
Okay, brilliant. And Christian's got a question, just saying he was asking about parameters. You mentioned parameters when you were talking about the pros. So he was saying parameters like a kind of write back.
Okay. To comment that, I assume I would like to play with it, but didn't find time enough for that. Okay. Now facts. Deneb as it is a read only visual. It's the same behavior as any other visual. However, Deneb allows you to connect to REST API.
Right.
If you adjust, and that's my assumption, if you adjust the REST API and send the queries based on Deneb parameters, input parameters, then I assume that you could write back using this REST API from Deneb.
Okay.
But please, it's my assumption.
Yes, understand.
I would love and I plan to play with it and test it, but not yet there.
Yeah, there's always lots of other things, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. And Christian said control click. Maybe if you're going to the documentation in the desktop, you have to press control and click.
Okay, but I can't. Okay. You can't move this window, thanks Microsoft, but control click visualization examples over there. And if I open it here, so here's example gallery of Vega-Lite. And if we switch to Vega, and if I'm able to navigate into the examples of Vega, then somewhere at the bottom you can see and you can play the Patsman. And now with keyboard, you can play the Patsman eating these dots, being run by ghost. And now I just eaten one ghost and these ghosts started to run away. Okay, another points and score there. And that's a Patsman example. You can have a specification, you can study, and yes, the code is long because it defines all those walls and I don't know what else there. I studied a little, but definitely it's not my work, and it's I would say one of the pinnacles of Vega specification I've seen.
Yeah.
But going back to something like closer to real life, you can see geographical maps, tree diagrams, scatter plot, lots of regressions, linear, polynomial, exponential fitting, trellis plot, facets, like literally what you ask. Sky is the limit. Okay.
Even a clock.
Yeah, even a clock and the speed meters, etc. So I would like to talk today mostly about data transformations in Deneb. Why?
Yeah.
Because without the data transformations, you cannot or deliver advanced visualization in Deneb is close to impossible.
Yeah.
You need to somehow prepare the data. But let's start with the beginning. So if you'd like to use the Deneb, you need to download the Deneb from a Visual Store. Deneb is certified by Microsoft, so there is no risk there as soon as your company allows you to do so. And here, how it works, the fastest way. So here's the Power BI default visualization, some stupid dummy data over there. If I just duplicate it and turns this visual into the Deneb, suddenly some strange, and typically that scares users, newbies, like what the hell is happening there? You click on the three dots and click on edit. By editing, you have this interactive GUI, graphical user interface. Like, yes, I would like to use a Vega. I would like to use a simple bar chart. What is the category? The KPI, sorry for very stupid names of mine. KPI2 is the measure. And just click on that and voila, congratulations. You just developed the first Deneb visual of your site. So now you see here is the Power BI. So within the Power BI, enlarged to the whole screen, it's a Deneb specification or Deneb interface. Here is a specification, so that defines to Deneb how the data should be visualized, transformed. Here you have the preview of what is happening there. In this area, you have the data, and if you run some transformation, you see the transformed data. For example, if you study the code over there, and another tip and trick there, if you go into the formatting of the visual, somewhere under the advanced editor, JSON editor, you can increase the font size, so suddenly it's better and readable. So you can see that the whole specification, at least in Vega-Lite, is close to English, so you can follow. it's effectively a JSON, so JSON formatted.
Mm.
And effectively, if you study it and read it like, okay, data, double dot, some curly brackets, name data set. So one would expect that this defines the data. And yes, this is the kind of flag for the Deneb, like, okay, use the data sent from Power BI to the Deneb and proceed and work with these data.
So
If you
basically, any data that you pop into the fields,
Yeah,
Deneb
exactly.
automatically then converts it to a data set.
Let's have a look and put there some KPI, I don't know, running total, and you see that immediately the data set consists of KPI running average and a KPI2 formatted. And if I deselect this from there, you see it just disappeared. Very nice feature, and I would love to see it in Power Query and in DAX, is you can collapse a particular part of the code. So yeah, data, there's just 3 rows, but you can see collapsing the encoding, whatever that is. I'm gonna have to comment it within a few seconds. You can work and proceed individual blocks of code and understand them step by step. Okay, so what is there? Typically, you need to define the data. So we define the data from Power BI. Then you define and how these data are going to be visualized. Here's a bar. I can change it to line, for example, just rewriting, and suddenly my visualization turns into the line. If I define there a point.
Quite nice for the IntelliSense, helping you decide what the different
Exactly. The
things you can
IntelliSense
pop
is
in.
priceless because there you can see there are multiple things. Okay, I even don't, okay, squares, so squares. And then if you add there something like size and put there, I don't know, 150, you control the size. So it's relatively intuitive, and with these whispers, which appears in Deneb like 1 year ago, in version 1 year ago approximately, it's super friendly to work with Deneb, much friendlier than ever was before. So here in the mark, you define how the data are going to be shown. Let's go back to the bar. And yeah, that's like too big. So let's do something smaller. Okay, thin bar. You can control also the color, but it's like mark. So what is the visualization? Let's collapse it. And then the encoding defines in this high grammar language what to do with the data. So you can see encoding and then Y and X. So one would assume that, okay, this is a specification of Y-axis and X-axis. And let's have a look. Let's replace the Y for X and replace for X for Y. And voila, you just change axis. Just flip axis. It's super easy like that. And here it's, you can see using the field, that means have a look into the input data. Into effectively field, it's like equivalent to column. So column KPI. KPI is X. So KPI fuel, milk, oil, water. Type nominal means it's not a number, it's category effectively. And for y-axis, now y-axis, the field is KPI2, so some kind of whatever dummy values it is, production, sold, cost, whatever. And type quantitative means that it's number, so work with it as a number.
So I guess just easily you could just swap the two over in the X KPI2 and
Let's
Y
return
KPI.
that, play it, and it's kind of magic. So you can see that it's like super easy to deliver one visual, easy visual, and okay, the formatted JSON code specifying this visual costs 20 rows of data.
Christian said, what happens if we replace KPI with years? I guess you have to put it in from the data. You have to add it to your data set to be able to use it in the visual.
You will see. You will see. Okay, so that is how to work in a very, very quick crash course, how to work with Deneb.
I love this. I used our studio coding, so this is brilliant.
So here is it, the Deneb interface, some ticks, and okay, there are some Deneb specific features. For example, that's more for the later pages kind of support, but sometimes you stop to see the cursor in Deneb. Typically it helps if you switch into the dark mode and back to the light mode, because the cursor, for whatever reasons, in Power BI tends to be a white color on a white background, but it happens from time to time. So there are some kind of peculiarities of Deneb. And definitely, I recommend, if you work with Deneb, try to avoid white spaces and non-ASCII characters in the name of parameters, variables used by Deneb.
Okay.
So specification, yes, if you add there the title, you started to see some title bar encoding. That's what I kind of shown. You can comment in the same way as in DAX, // /* ended by */. It's multi-line comment. You can even name individual layers specification by special name, so it's easier to navigate over it. Let's go to advanced specification.
Can I just, Christian, just want to make sure I've given him the right answer. So Christian's question was, can we modify in code? So could he add years in code to where you had the KPI 1 and KPI 2? But
yes,
my understanding
you can adjust. You can adjust, but you need to keep the name.
Yeah, but do you have to put years into the data set or not? Because if you click on the Deneb visual.
Okay, so we are on the Deneb visual now.
I'm taking advantage of you, Pavel, by asking my questions.
So if I add the date there, I would have some dates.
So you have to add the date to the actual values to be able to interact with it in the Deneb visual.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, so now we are gonna to see a little advanced specification. What is here? Some controlling of opacity of the bars, user control, and you can see these controls exist within Deneb. Yeah, I can hide labels, show the labels. I can also control what is this delimiter between the absolute value and a relative weight. And then there is a KPI threshold represented by this yellow color, and I can control it. And if it's below the column value, the column turns to red, and also this label turns to red. So if I scroll up to the right, then everything is blue, and then red. That's okay. So let's have a look what is inside. If I duplicate this Deneb, sorry, that's not the correct Deneb visual. This Deneb visual, Control-C, Control-V, and turn it into the table, so you can see that that's all. These are all data going into Deneb, and also without totals. So these 4 KPIs evaluated in evaluation context of these 4 products. That's everything that's going into Deneb, and everything else, weight, relative weight, etc. If it's red or blue, it's calculated within the Deneb. So let's have a look how. Deneb supports you with it's effectively an equivalent of individual calculations. These are previews in Power BI. Deneb supports this kind of equivalent of individual calculations for ages already as general availability. And so there is some title, okay, there is specification of the height, specification of the data, and here have a look on that transform. Let's increase the font size.
Can I ask another question?
Yep.
So, you said just now that you can't click and copy and paste the visuals. You can,
but it's peculiarity of Power BI. You need to click effectively on the edge of the visual, and that's not only the Deneb, that's also valid for other custom visuals. And then Control-C, Control-V, and you can see I just duplicated the visual. It's not a problem. But typically, if you just click on the add the visual somewhere into in the middle, you typically cannot Control C copy it. It's one of the peculiarities, not Deneb, but in general Power BI working with custom visuals.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's go back to some transformations. Data transformations are specified, defined in a block that is named transform. And for example, here, join aggregate means, okay, take the input data and to every row of the data, create a new column. So it's like Power Query equivalent of add new column. And that new column should be evaluated based on all data. How? It should take the field KPI2 like that, these numbers. It should run the operation sum over these numbers. And the column, this kind of new column equivalent that is going to be built, name should be total sum. So here's the data set. If I switch into the data 0, you can see total sum. So
I see where you're
1040 is effectively the grand total of KPI2. But it's calculated in Deneb. And what that means is that you don't need to call somewhere a DAX, complex DAX, querying, okay, for fuel, the KPI is 309, for milk is this and that. And suddenly at the bottom, you have this grand total. Custom totals doesn't matter if they are additive and can be summed together and pickle math Power BI stuff or not, but you need to evaluate the summarization across all products to have a grand total. But calculating it in Deneb, it does not trigger request from Power BI and Power BI semantic model to feed Deneb with the data. You fed Deneb with 4 values over there, and this grand total is calculated based on that. So if you need to calculate the grand total, you don't need to calculate the fuel twice, once for the row, first row, and a second as a part of the grand total. So it can save, and typically it's saving a lot of computation, especially if your semantic or if your visual works with DirectQuery data.
And you're using this in production now, aren't you?
Yes. Okay, so but you can see it's showing some labels over there and including the weight. You don't see any weight as an input. No percentage are calculated in DAX. So how these things are calculated? There is nothing in transformation. Let's close the parameters. These parameters defines these user interactive stuff showing, etc. So just close them for a while. Resolve that the axis should be shared, okay, because you can have individual independent axes, and then there is encoding, so what is on X and Y axis, and finally there is something that's called layer. Deneb supports you with layering, with control, how things should be visualized, which layer is before or after another layer. So that layer is effectively kind of package that controls 3 items there. If I remove these 2 items or just comment them, you can see only the bar remains there. If I copy that back, so I have the line over there, this position of this KPI threshold, the yellow one that interacts with my user interactions, and the labels. And so let's have a look on the labels. You can see you can name, yes?
I've got a quick question from UV. He said, does Deneb support the GUID for the measure objects instead of the hard-coded measure name? So if someone
Unfortunately,
was to change...
so far it's hard-coded. So if I switch and change this to BBB, KPI2 BBB, everything just disappeared because suddenly Deneb expect in the transformations and here in a bar visualization, it expect to work with KPI2.
Yeah.
as column name equivalent, and
Yeah.
there is no KPI2 in input data.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
careful, and that's also the problem of this field parameters, because if you work with field parameters and the field
Yeah.
parameter
It's
controls you
switching.
the different measures, it
Mm.
change the name of the measure that it's pushed into the visual,
Mm.
and suddenly you have the problem that you have a specification then for KPI, I don't know, EBITDA, but suddenly there is KPI costs.
Mm. Mm.
Sorry for that.
No, it's good.
That's like that. Okay. So text label. You can see that there is another transformation in the text label item. Do you remember there is a layer? So layer is kind of like box for multiple things that should be visualized there in a layer. And there is another transformer, and there is also the transform. And that's the beauty of Deneb. It works in the hierarchy. So if you run a transformation on the master, this transformation is available for everyone below, every daughter. But you can run a daughter-specific transformations. And you can even create a layer of layers. So you can kind of nest it objects together. And therefore, if I would create another layer here and add some transformation, that transformation is applied on every daughter of that particle sublayer. So you can save a thing, and it's also making a lot of experience when you are trying to understand what the hell is happening with your data there. However, let's go here. So here is the transformation, and the transformation consists of one item filter per radio button equals to yes. So that means return me every data from the input data if this parameter radio button is equal to yes. And here it's show labels yes. If I click on a height label, suddenly that parameter is evaluated as false. Therefore, the filter effectively filters the table to nothing. Therefore, nothing is going to be shown. No labels. You would like to address the labels, but there are no labels because the table is empty. So you just filter it, and you have this interactivity. So let's turn it on to show. And then you have the encoding. You can see the mark is text. So one would expect some text is going to be placed, what font size, alignment, whatever parameters there. But then there is encoding. There is encoding where it should be positioned. And have a look, there is no definition like where is going to be positioned in x-axis. Yes, because it used the higher hierarchy encoding, where it specified that the X field is by default defined by KPI2. So I don't need to reuse it again because it's defined on the top of hierarchy. However, I can place there the X position and adjust it like X value, there should be a comma, and the value is 10. And if I did not screw it up, suddenly it's positioned on a 10th pixel of the visualization. So I override what was defined on a father's level in the hierarchy, because here it's stronger. So let's comment it. And I try to get to this text, because the text means, okay, what string is going to be shown in this mark text? And there is a beauty of expressions. So text, there should be some value. And what is the definition of the value? Yes, I can comment all of that and define that the value is going to be ABC or ABC, and everywhere is going to be ABC static, but it's not so sexy looking label. But I can define the expression. That means evaluate the expression, and again, like equivalent of evaluation context like in DAX. So how it's going to be evaluated? Evaluated by product water. Here, the product water datum KPI. So it's gonna to take from the water KPI 300 close to 400. Format this datum means keyword. Let's have a look into the data. Let's have a look on the column KPI2, and then encapsulate that as an input for a function format. And here is how the thing should be formatted. So if I add the format .3f, I would see 3 decimals there.
Yeah.
You can also call a parameter here, so you can specify somewhere at the top what is going to be general applied formatting, and then it's applied. And how it's calculated, this ratio, you can see here, it's effectively running datum date KPI2, so that's this 400 over there, divided by total sum value. Total sum value is this grand total, 1000. So if I divide this 400 by 1000, I have this close to 40% of weight, and it's calculated on fly based on these 4 numbers injected from Power BI. Yes, you can see here's expression that controls the color. So is KPI bigger than threshold, then it turns red, otherwise it turns blue. You can use the hexacodes there, or you can use the gold layer or gold color, whatever. Suddenly it's gold, okay. Brown, deep, I don't know, blue. And okay, blue is not so nice, so yellow. And yeah, it's no longer readable. So sorry for that. Let's use the red and blue.
It's nice so that you can actually change it and see it instantly changing in the code.
Yeah, exactly. So to wrap it, you can run some transformations based on input data pushed from Power BI into the Deneb. And any applied transformation here, even including, I can add the KPI threshold and multiply the values. But still that means that these values, the DAX code generated by Deneb effectively to feed the inputs into the Deneb is always the same. So that means that you can play with Deneb. In Deneb defines parameters as you'd like to, but you are not changing the specification of DAX that is pulling the data into the Deneb. That means you are not retriggering data pull from semantic model to Deneb visual. So you are saving a lot of time and evaluation, especially for complex calculations. So this is kind of two key things how you can transform as a general transformation of the data, and then expression. And there you follow, I recommend to study Deneb Vega-Lite documentation for expressions, what you can use, how you can add the logic, etc., etc. Here is an example of running totals. So on the top, you see Power BI with some, okay, I'm not honorable Italian. I'm sure that the DAX code can be improved a lot, but generally it, returns some, year to go, year to date values. So blue one is input. Let's duplicate that visual and see it, consume it as a table without totals, okay, without totals, okay. And there is the KPI, and then calculating organic total. So year to date, so for January it's this 15, for February it's 10 plus 15, and the standing is effectively year to go. So for January, it's summarization of all months from December down to the January. So that can be calculated in DAX and is calculated in DAX. However, check this one. That's Deneb. Let's duplicate the Deneb. Okay, again, I need to aim for the edge, turn it into the table, and now you see that the Deneb is fed by only these data, just KPI and date. Because these running total year to date and year to go is calculated in Deneb. How? Let's see how complex it is. And let's change the font size a little. So you need to have a look to transformation, and there are two transformations. Okay, plus some join aggregate and some window operation, doesn't matter. But what is most important for us and more interesting is this window. The window transformation is example in human language. It's translated like, okay, you should run some operation. Here is summarization. It can be average, it can be min, it can be whatever. On a particular field, so on the field of KPI, this KPI that is input of the visual, and the result is going to be called like running total d-date descending. But the window specified run this operation on somehow controlled window, not on all data available. There was this join aggregate example just one slide ago. Here, run it on a window, and that window you can control, and you are controlling how the window is sorted. And if there is no other specification, by default, it runs like an iterator. So on a first row, window without any other specification goes, okay, I'm on first row, so it should be sum over the KPI over there. So sum from the start row, that's actually the first row, up to the actual row, that's the first row. So I have the 15 as somewhere there. Let's go to data 0, that's output of the transformation, and somewhere there you can see ascending and descending here because I changed the ordering. I change it by date. So suddenly I'm on January, but January is the last row of the whole table of 12 months. So here the window is applied on every 12 months. If I sort by date ascending, so January started to be first row, and it's running total over the January only. But if I'm then on February, then it's running total from first row up to the February row. And suddenly it calculates the accumulated totals. And when you try to compare how quick or slow is then the visualization between the Deneb and Power BI default visual, then have a look on the performance analyzer. Here's a screen. So Power BI default visual DAX query goes 150 milliseconds here. Okay, my crappy DAX. Here, DAX query, 9 milliseconds. Why? Because here, for Power BI accumulated totals, for example, February, I need to calculate for January and February, and I'm accounting for and querying the data model several times for the same value. But in Deneb, I feed there the value for January, February, etc. once, and Deneb then takes it like materialized table of values and run the logic there by itself, saving a lot of time. Especially remember this direct query. You are saving a lot of searching through and filtering through tables. Doesn't matter if the table is some SQL or Snowflake or SQL endpoint somewhere, or in your imported data in Power BI semantic model. Similar stuff is with running average. So default visual, again, like just comparison that it calculates the same stuff. And here is a running average of plus minus 1 point. So I apply the window operation, mean operation, so return me the average over the KPI, call it as running average, sort. Okay, so it should sort it, fine. And here is the definition of frame. So that means the window is defined by -1 row and +1 row from the actual row. Okay. So if I am on February, the input for the window transformation is data from January, February, and March. If I'm, as evaluation context is August, then the frame is defined July, August, and September, and returns the mean. If I would like to run the average of ±2, I would just change it here, and suddenly you can see the yellow one is changed and it's smoothed because suddenly it returns the average of 5 points, not 3.
Do you know that it just makes sense?
When you adapt to that, it's super sexy and super efficient.
It does. You read that and it seems logical to me. It seems, it seems logical, because I think what you're doing is you're taking it out of the context of the model, so that you're just working on those two columns, and what you're doing
on
with those
this
two.
materialized data effectively.
Yeah. How does it work if you slice things or anything? If you wanted to have a date range slicer.
Okay, let's see. So I don't remember this. So let's duplicate it. Okay, let's duplicate Power BI default. That's easier to duplicate. Let's remove this stuff and let's smash somewhere there is a slicer. So have a look. By filtering the dates, I'm filtering the input data going into the Deneb visual, and it still calculates this average. There's no problem in that.
And that would work if you had another BI visual, with categories, and you clicked on the categories, it would. Oh.
Okay. Similar. Here visualization, this thick line these are the actual data. And you can see orange, and what the color is that? Dark red, brown, whatever, is the previous and next row. So others the previous month data and next month data. Effectively, again, there is a window function for that. Here it calculates some mean, so that's the average. But here is a lag and lead. I always forget which one is like the previous and which one of them is the late one, but lag is the previous and lead is the next. Okay, fine. I'm gonna to forget it within a few seconds, but now you know it. But that calculates, have a look on data 0. So data set is the input data. Data 0 are the data transform. And you can see somewhere there, running average, and here's KPI previews. Okay, if I'm on the 1st in January, I don't have any data from previous year, December. But the next is 10.1. So let's check it for February. It's over there. Sorry, problem with as if with web service. So if you have a date time, there are also daytime zones, and then they are automatically calculated to your local time zone. So it's -1 hour or +1 hour off. So don't be surprised that there is 23 December. Effectively, it's January. Okay, I'm in Central Europe, so not Greenwich time. But you can see that for February, it's 10.0 as a value. And you can see that for January, the next row value is 10.1. That's fine. That's it. So you have this lag operation. I assume that Microsoft just copy-paste what Daniel's Patrick delivered ages ago. They just clone it and duplicate it into this preview of individual calculations.
Yeah. I was gonna.
Okay, some stuff to show.
Okay.
So here is
just
more like
just giving you a quick time check. We're 10 minutes out of 7, and we've got a really nice question I want to ask you.
And I'm on the last page. Then there is a recapitulation. So fine. Here's example of using and without any custom transformation, effectively binning. The input for that is some population density in Great Britain per age of respondents, whatever, something like that. And here is the bin size. So I have the bin size 5 years. So this bar represents all babies from just born to 5 years old. However, what if I would like to change the bin size to 10 years? What if I would like to change the bin size to 25 years? And what is happening under the surface? Effectively, parameters define these and font size controls the font over there, but it's not so important. But bin size defines the bin size as it is, as a parameter. Then there is an encoding. And here you can see its definition of the step. And then there is another signal. It's not so well documented, but in human language, it is okay. So step is defined. And typically, the step should be defined by the scalar value, like 7 years. But if you add there, if you encapsulate their signal keyword, that's a kind of red flag to Vega, like, okay, expect some parameter that can be changed by the user and recalculate the bin anytime the parameter is interacted with the user. So it's kind of like interrupt operation propagating over the Deneb evaluation. Therefore, you added a parameter that's defined here, and anytime you change the parameter, Vega-Lite realize, okay, I should recalculate everything that's descendant on the signal, so it's doing so.
Can you like see where you've got it highlighted as parse step size? How do you then go and find it? Can you just do a
by the way,
so you're looking
another step that it's just dreams comes true, Control F, parse step size, and yes, I can navigate. That is still something that Microsoft not yet invented at all. And yes, you can also highlight stuff there and Control H, and you can replace it everywhere.
Nice.
After how many years with Power BI? 10 years, 11 years of Power BI, and we still don't have such feature in DAX window. We need to use the DAX Studio for do so, and not in Power Query. Therefore, copying, pasting into the notepad just to change it. Well, Daniel Mashpetik, wow, we've got it here. Okay, some kind of recapitulation of what I was talking about, showing and jumping from topic to topic. So Deneb, high-level grammar specification definition. It works in some kind of English-like language. That's JSON. The language can be Vega or Vega-Lite, and the language defines, specifies what should be done with the data and how the data should be visualized. Part of the specification can be and typically is data transformation. These data transformations in Deneb, they do not trigger or re-trigger the querying semantic model. So it's kind of like materialized view from the point of view of Deneb. And whatever you do as a transformations, you are saving a lot of computation times of DAX, especially in DirectQuery and Lakehouse connections semantic models.
Yeah.
There are numerous data transformations in Deneb. Data binning, data bucketing, identification of patterns, fitting, and not only linear fitting. Data resampling, I can show if it's enough time, but we have a lot of questions. Interpolations, sorry, and it's not shown. Interpolation, so if a missing point is there, you can glue it by average of nearby points or whatever rows you define. Next previous row or plus minus X rows operations, folding, pivoting, unpivoting. That's available in Deneb. And without these data transformations, it's close to impossible to deliver advanced and sexy looking visualization.
So what, you can pivot and unpivot using Deneb?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh, because that is so heavy computation wise.
Exactly. Okay, now you mentioned that there are questions.
I'm just saying that was brilliant, Pavel. Absolutely brilliant. It's made me want to really, really learn it, because I used to use R before I got into BI, R and Python. And in R Studio Code, you can build your own apps, but it's a bit tricky sometimes. Whereas obviously the Power BI visuals, if you can just pull them in and click, 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 then that's perfect. But quite often I find
I didn't show in Deneb you can save the kind of template, visual template.
Yeah.
And instead of this graphical user interface dialog there, would like to create a Deneb Vega or Vega-Lite, would like to be like default bar chart or column chart or whatever is there or interactive. You can click there and use a template, select the template, and suddenly you have these data, and you just select OK, and the first evaluation context is defined by that name, second evaluation by that name, KPI 1 is this KPI, KPI 2 that KPI. You just control it, is like you can be fat, temp, and easy.
Yeah.
And you are following it even for
Yeah.
monkey, and you have your results. But
Can
I
you
didn't
just
touch
before
it. Really.
yeah, before I ask you the question, because I wonder, where would you suggest people get started? So if I was to say to you,
Definitely.
right,
Okay, where to start
where
it?
am I
I
going to
would
start?
definitely recommend to visit Vega Vega-Lite.
Yeah.
And there is a section of tutorials, like how the data are represented, encoding with marks step by step.
Yeah.
And that's official stuff.
Yeah.
Next tutorials, example galleries, especially example galleries, as I mentioned, let's see something, some aggregates bar chart. Here you have the specification, so you can copy paste it. And here is the beauty. You can view this example in the online editor. And if it works correctly, so you can play with Deneb in a web browser without anything else.
So
And you
just
can
like
explore.
Python, really, when you look at matplotlib, where you've got all of the different ways that you can. Oh, I like a lot. I like a lot.
See,
I like a
here's the
lot.
filter to year 2000. I don't know
Yeah.
if there are 2001. Okay, there are no data for 2001, so 1999. Let's have a look. Okay, also there are data only for 2000. You can check for the data population.
Yeah. So you just
Effectively, it's
need to
like,
make sure that any field that you want to use within your Deneb is in the buckets within the Power BI. And once you put
yeah,
them in the buckets, then it
combine
converts it to
buckets. You can okay. Data from Power BI needs to be defined in a Deneb visual.
yeah.
But the Deneb visual itself, especially in the Vega language, it can combine your data, for example, with REST API, get it data, and with local data hard-coded defined into the Deneb visual. So suddenly,
No, yeah.
and that's for just head
Now
bloating.
you're blowing my mind. That's going to be for another session, Pavel. Whoa. Shall I give you the quick? So Yuvi said, in AI vibe coded era, where does Deneb shine over other operations? Sort of like when to use native visuals, Deneb, HTML, or SVG. Yuvi, we've only got a few minutes, not an hour.
Okay, quick answer on that. If you can deliver the visualization with default visuals, I recommend use default visuals.
Yeah.
Go for the Deneb as soon as the visualization cannot be supported by default visuals. And even then, I would first try it SVG as a DAX measure in a table or metrics. And if it doesn't work correctly, or you are limited by something, then let's go into the Deneb. And if that is not enough, typically it is enough, then you can start vibe coding some custom visual. But come on, with custom visuals, especially in corporate, big corporates, it's difficult to accept them on a corporate level. And typically it's like no-go zone. So default visuals combined with custom dynamic SVGs, then I would use Deneb.
Oh, so you'd go the custom SVGs first before Deneb. Why?
Yes. However, for example, here is dummy data example of visualization in Deneb, where there are two sections, two layers, effectively three layers, calculating some totals and averages, month averages, differences on the top with synchronized x-axis, showing the averages over there with custom labels over there. And these are the input data for that, some actual data, planned data, target data. And you can see that the logic of Deneb works and identifies what is the last valid month with actual data. That means this Ist and Vorschau in German, actual and
That's
planned
nice.
data,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
visualize everything in it within the Deneb. And that cannot be delivered by SVG. It would be very ugly. And you still have a tooltips. I don't know if I have tooltips. No, I don't have tooltips there. But in Deneb, also another tidbit of information. You can define the tooltips in Deneb, and you can also persuade Deneb, not a persuading, you just use it, default Power BI tooltip. So you can have Deneb visualization, and if you hover then you have the default Power BI tooltip page with 3 other visuals, etc. And that works without any big problem.
Oh, I like this.
Another stuff, data resampling over there. So there is month granulated data, but you can see hiding, and you can see now these tooltips over there, showing. So plenty of stuff can be delivered by Deneb.
Christian said clicking on a bar will filter the table in the IBCS visual.
Clicking
on where you had your IBCS.
Deneb works with backward compatibility or backward filtering. That's not valid for Python. So if I use over there this basic how-to, this one, and if I just create, okay, let it be like that. I just use this interactivity, because if you add the interactivity, then the specification is more complex. I didn't want to kind of over complicate it by
I can
interactive
have
bar
you back
chart.
once I've got used to this bit.
Okay, so now it's it. And let's apply it, go back. And now if I click on this column, you can see that Power BI is also filtered. The default visual is also filtered. So you have this interactivity, and you can control by format how those interactions, if they are filtering down or just highlighting. And that works this both directional to Deneb. With Python, as far as I know, if Microsoft change it, and I don't think so, Power BI default visuals are filtering the Python, but any interaction with the Python is not filtering default visuals.
I don't know, because it just takes the Python. I haven't used the Python visual. It was heavy compute wise, but this was a year or two ago, so it just seemed to take a while. Oh, I like this. Oh, it's 7:04, Pavel. 7:04. I'm just going to say.
Is there any other question, because we are over time?
Yuvi said, have you got any blogs or anything that you have talked about it? So we've got the link. We've put the link into the examples gallery. Daniel, if you follow Daniel Marsh-Petrick, how do you spell his name? He's got loads of blogs. Let me see if I can find it.
Plus on this Deneb introduction, there are some names worthy to follow. Greg Phillips. I hope so that I did not screw up his name. Enterprise DNA Forum. He's one of the best experts I know about with Vega-Lite. Kerry Kolosko, Power BI guy, Andrzej Leskiewicz, the Polish guy, specialist for Vega. And there is one guy, Matt, I don't remember his name. I know I have the link to his GitHub, and his master in Vega. And that's mind-blowing what he's doing. So there are some names, but if you follow these things, these names, come on. Oh, I hate you, Microsoft.
I know.
Okay, so there, Kerry Kolosko, Power BI guy over there, just follow the names around, and you can't burn yourself. These are like Italian diabolic duo for Deneb.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, thank you so much. I will stop recording now. That was absolutely brilliant. I really, really enjoyed that. Let me just press stop. Stopped.